This is Street Knowledge with Chris Graham.
Welcome to the podcast. Chris Graham, a special podcast today. A little special, feels nice and special, with game day in town Saturday. We're recording this on Friday, so we're on game day eve, I guess you can say. Virginia Tech, Saturday night, 6:15 tip in the John Paul Jones Arena. Now, College Game Day, ESPN College Game Day in town for the game, as Virginia is poised with a win tomorrow night to ascend to number one in the national rankings, first time since 1982 that would happen. Now, 40 minutes of basketball before that could happen, and this is a Virginia Tech team that, of course, lost to Virginia earlier this season by 26 points in Blacksburg, but the two teams split last season. You know, and Virginia Tech has a lot to play for. They're on the wrong side of the NCAA tournament bubble, so certainly motivation to get what would be a marquee win over Virginia on their floor. So a lot to certainly play for this game, but it's a whatever happens in the game tomorrow night, it's going to be an interesting 24 hours or so coming up for Virginia basketball fans. Game day in town. What that means is Saturday morning, 11 o'clock. The TV show comes on from JPJ with Jay Bilas, with Jay Williams, with Seth Greenberg, with Reese Davis, and they'll be breaking down the entire day and the entire weekend in college basketball, but with a special focus on UVA Virginia Tech. And we had a chance today to head over to Charlottesville to the John Paul Jones Arena and talk with the stars of the show, Jay Williams, Jay Bilas, and with Seth Greenberg. We're going to present them in that order. I think actually Jay Bilas first, Jay Williams, and then Seth Greenberg. Participating in a sort of gaggle with other reporters. There was Mike Barber from the Times-Dispatch, Damon Dillman from CBS 19 over in Charlottesville, Marty Hudloff, the sports director of NBC 29 over in Charlottesville, and myself. And we were asking questions of the guys to help break down both this game coming up, but also the ACC season, Virginia 12-0 in the ACC, and how maybe surprising that is for folks. It's obviously surprising for a lot of folks. Even me, who thought Virginia was going to be a Final Four team this year, I did not predict a 23-1 start overall, 12-0 in the ACC. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what maybe makes Virginia special under Tony Bennett, his 9th season at Virginia. So all those questions and half-court shots, I guess, they'll come up as well. So let's get to first Jay Bilas as he talks us through this game day matchup, Virginia Tech.
I'm curious your take on a team being 12-0 in the ACC at this point, with how good this league is, and what does it take for UVA to kind of get to that point?
It's stunning, really, to go on the road in this league and win the way Virginia's won. There's a historic quality to it. I mean, it's only happened a few times, and for a team to be this good on one end of the floor. I mean, Virginia's very good offensively, but it's not the lead story. To be as good as they are defensively and to be able to do it over extended periods like that, they're really hard to play against, and they're a rhythm disrupting force. Basketball, I think most people would agree, basketball is about rhythm. Establishing yours, disrupting theirs, and they disrupt rhythm better than anybody that I've seen in, I don't know how many years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. It's ridiculous. I can't think of anybody that's been sort of this good without having like a dominant shot blocking presence, or it's not like like Devin Hall and Isaiah Wilkins are great individual defenders, but it's not something where you're going, okay, well, this guy's the best defender I've ever seen type of deal. It's just 5 as 1 on the floor. This team plays together defensively better than any team I can remember.
Do you think, is it feasible for somebody to run the table in the ACC, or, I mean, at this point?
It's been done before, but it's been done by teams that had lottery picks. And with all respect to Virginia's play, they got really good players that are underappreciated for how good they are individually. They're vastly underrated. But you're not going to see any of them as first-round draft picks. So for them to play at that level, it's a collective thing where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts thing.
A lot of people obviously didn't see this coming this year.
I didn't.
Yeah, what do you think of the job, just the coaching job Tony's done?
Well, Tony's done a great job every year, so that's not surprising. But you know, you kind of wonder sometimes on the coaching front, like coaches don't have bad years. It's not like they go, oh, you know, Tony had a really bad year. You know? It doesn't work that way. It's usually player oriented, and so they're taught a certain way, and different groups of players get it on different levels in different years. So it's player dependent, and these players get it, and they're really a good group, and they don't seem to care who gets the credit. They're very much a we before me group, and they look like they have fun, but they're serious, and you don't play defense for that extended a period of time. I mean, Tony used the term, I think, continuous, you know. And I don't think I've seen anybody that plays at that level continuously. I mean, in Florida, I think it was a Florida State game, they gave up an offensive rebound, and they basically played 60 seconds of uninterrupted defense. I'm like, who does that? That was awesome. Now, like for some people, like I don't know the right sports analogy, but some people like watching a 1-0 baseball game, and other people want to watch them bang it over the fence every time. If you like 1-0. It's awesome. It's awesome.
When you think about this matchup, Virginia Tech, Buzz's first 2 years were they were all go to the rim, and part of that was just what he had. But
they're still that way. They still have to get in the lane.
They seem to get back to
up.
that, and they're trying to get those threes. But is this a team you can get? Virginia, is this a team they can get to the rim against, or are they going to have to find another way to score? In other words, Virginia Tech.
Well, I mean, the easy thing to say is they have to make shots. So the getting into the lane stuff, like Virginia, you guys watch them all the time. They don't allow baseline drives. Everything's into the middle, which most teams are trying to get into the middle, but Virginia funnels you into the middle, and they funnel you into help, and their help's always there. So you're not going to get anything off the first action. It's going to come off the second and third pass. And the problem is you get into a late clock, and it gets tougher and tougher. So the teams that attack early are probably better off. But they're hard to run against because they only send 2 guys to the offensive glass to get back. But I think because Virginia Tech can make shots, like they can shoot it. If they can make some, then you got a chance. But you know, it's like playing against a great pitcher. You know, if you can put the ball in play, you got a chance. But putting the ball in play is hard.
What do you see differently, what Virginia might be doing defensively in terms of the turnovers? And the Pac-line defense isn't traditionally known for creating a lot of turnovers. Virginia's been getting a lot of turnovers this year and converting them into points. Do you see anything that they're doing differently, or is it just a function maybe of the talent that they have this year?
It's more of the latter, because a lot of teams play Pac-line defense. You know, a ton of teams play it. They don't play it like this, and that's player dependent. So everybody is. In the games, I've watched all their games on Synergy, and their help position is always good. They've always got 5 guys that are playing the ball, and they move on. They anticipate really well. They move on the flight of the ball really well. Move as the ball moves. So there are very few openings, and that gets in your head after a while. And so you start moving a little bit faster. You know, you make mistakes that way, and you dribble into trouble. And you see an opening, and the opening closes right away. But it's largely because of how together they are as a unit, more so than the scheme. Because the scheme is well known. Like, it's not like you can't understand what the pack line is. You know, it's like playing against a zone. Everybody knows what Syracuse's zone is. They know what the slides are. They know where the openings are, but they close up quick. And so it's you can X and O all you want to, but you have to do it, 5-on-5.
Will this be kind of a unique game day experience where, as if the home team wins, they're going to be the number 1 ranked team in the country for the first time in over 3 decades?
Yeah, it's different, but we've been to number 1 places before, so it's not horribly unusual, but it's more fun, and when you got a team that's doing something that they haven't done in a while, it makes it more fun for the fans. But for us, for the game day show, we're always mindful of where we are, but the show's done for everybody else. Like it's done for the people at home. It's fun for the people here, but it's done for the people at home.
You've always raved, you guys in the past have raved about the atmosphere here. I said it was one of the best ever. What do you remember from it, and what do you expect for tomorrow?
Creativity and fun and pride. People here prideful in what they have, and they should be. It's a great place, one of the great, sort of new arenas, on-campus arenas in the country. It's unique and it's got a great feel, and the team's really good. I've never been a big believer that, like, I think crowds are great. It's great for the atmosphere. It's a lot of fun, but I don't think good teams are intimidated by crowds. They're affected by the team. And I've never heard a coach come into a press conference after a loss and say, our crowd really cost us the game. Never do that.
Are you of the thinking that Virginia Tech needs to win either this or at Duke for their NCAA tournament? And they've got the Washington win, but other than that, they're a little thin in there.
Well, they beat Carolina. They beat North Carolina.
In the non-conference time, yeah.
I mean, look, you have to win good games, but if they don't beat, the top team, the number one team in the country, their hopes aren't dashed. But similarly, if they win this game and don't win the others, they're out. So it's important, but you can't overemphasize it. I mean, there's no such thing as a must-win, except when get to the end, you're 1 and out. If you treat every game as a must-win, you'll probably be okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jay.
That was easy. Thank you.
I'm glad I can raise the level of analytics here for you guys, considering you guys just got done with Jay Bilas.
You gotta save the day
not
for
cream
us.
of the crop. Yeah.
Gotta save the day for us. You know what the ACC is like, how hard it is to go through. For this team to be 12-0 at that point, how impressive is it? But also, how much, as an analyst, does it surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me, because I think one of the things that I really have learned to appreciate about Tony's teams, in particular this year, that I do not see in college basketball, is the willingness of the effort that's 24/7, 365. That is a skill set that is almost a rarity within our game. I think the tendency now, because of AAU basketball and the way a lot of these kids play on a grassroots level, and a lot of these kids aren't here to build into a culture first off, is that when they get tired, they want to play through that tiredness. And usually that's when you make mistakes. You're not down in the stands, or you're trying to take a shortcut on the screen. And one of the beautiful things I've seen about Tony's teams is that I've seen multiple guys raise their hand to come out of a game. Who does that these days? Nobody does that. Most kids like, I want to, fade away to the corner so I can continue to play. Well, when a guy says, hey, give me a minute, and they have somebody else that's able to come off the bench and give even more effort, and then you're able to gather your wind and come back on the court. Those are the variables that really add to the equation of being successful, because you're maintaining and sustaining a certain level of play. And I don't think a lot of teams are able to do that. And this is the anomaly here.
When you think about the X's and O's of this matchup, Virginia Tech obviously is designed to get the ball, go up the floor, get to the rim. Virginia's designed to stop you before you get to the rim. How can Virginia Tech get offense against what you were just talking about, Tony's defense?
Well, Virginia Tech does have the ability to get hot, and they do have the ability to make difficult shots. And I think if you're Virginia Tech, you have to continue to try to dribble, drive, and create some space. And I think if you're UVA, as much as we as the media, we want to break down the details of how do you defend each and every opponent. At the end of the day, UVA has to worry about UVA, because what they do, their principles, that takes care of itself. And it's really funny when I go out and I talk to different teams about different styles of play. The pack line is so different for me, because when you play against it, like I'm not used to being forced towards the middle. You're like, wait a second, I go to the middle, that's supposed to collapse the defense, and it almost baits you every time, because you don't get a chance to see that. I want to drive middle. That's where defense collapses. And now all of a sudden this team knows how to rotate. They know how to. Everybody's communicating. That's, once again, in this state of basketball, that is an anomaly. You don't have 5 guys on the court that are saying, Ty, I got your back, send them this way. Or that level of communication is sophisticated and is different. We don't see that in college basketball anymore.
Well, Tony is a team guy, and we all appreciate that, and he talks about that at length. But he's made reference the last few weeks that his guys don't get credit for being individually really good basketball players. Can you see where he's coming from?
Yeah, I call that first class problems. And it's really good. I mean, for a team looking for individual recognition when they're about to be number 1 in the country, if they take care of business tomorrow, that's a great problem to have. And we talk about it because, Kyle Guy is really good, Ty Jerome is really good, Devin Hall is really good. You have a lot of talented players on this team, but the thing that makes them great is the system. And also the fact that they've all bought into the system. So yes, I do give Tony credit for wanting to buy into the more individual accolades, and I think that will come. But at the end of the day, I didn't care who won National Player of the Year or who was first team All-American or who was ACC Player of the Year. When I think about my sophomore year in college, I think about I was a national champion. I think about I was an ACC champion. And that meant more to me because of the style we played, more so than any individual accolades.
How surprised are you, though, that we're talking about a UVA team that's 12-0 that's on the verge of if they win tomorrow? Because, I mean, I don't think many of us saw it coming.
I didn't see it coming. I mean, I saw a team that was going to be able to sustain that effort of play. I didn't know they were going to run through the gauntlet like this at that degree. But it's interesting. The more and more we start to break down other teams in the ACC, and look, I'm not saying that UVA is perfect. I mean, they have flaws too. They can always have one of those offensive games that they just can't put the ball in the bucket. But the one thing they do have is their effort on the defensive end can help them stay in ball games, and that's imperative. But when you start breaking down the ACC, I mean, you watch Duke over the last couple of games. I mean, they are fractured defensively. Louisville is playing better, but they're still going through it a little bit. North Carolina may be starting to rise a tad. We're seeing all these other teams. NC State is going to be an interesting game between North Carolina and NC State tomorrow. NC State's a team on up and coming. But at the end of the day, it's the fact that they play together. Togetherness is one of the most underrated things in all of sports. And this team, Coach K said it before, one of the things that makes them great. They play like this. They don't play like this. They don't play like five individuals. They play like a fist on the court.
When you've been here before for game day, you've talked about the great experience for the
Oh
TV
yeah,
show.
trust me. Everybody else reminds me because I wore a UVA jersey and I stood up on the podium. So
Are you doing that again?
I don't know. You got to say that for tomorrow.
What do you expect for tomorrow, though? This is the 2 years you've been here. It's been a great atmosphere.
We were in Austin this past weekend, and it was pretty amazing. And I think we were all kind of shocked, and a lot of their fans came out in support for Andrew Jones, obviously going through leukemia, and it was a pretty emotional thing. But I'll tell you, every time I come here, I expect the fans to be crazy, and I also expect somebody to make a shot from half court for $18,000. That kid last year was amazing. The fact that he was wearing a headband and nobody thought he was going to be able to make the shot. The energy here is next level stuff. And when I get a chance, I've known Kyle Guy since he was a McDonald's All-American. We used to talk about it. And he's like, hey, what's one thing I can expect when I go to Charlottesville? I'm like, hey, every time we played there, I used to tell Roger Mason, I hate it here because their fans were just relentless. It's 24/7, and they're loud, and they say things to you, and they talk to you, and they get involved in the game, and they're not separated from the game. They feel like they're part of the game. That's a hell of an advantage to have.
From your perspective, maybe a more national perspective, what's kind of the perception of Tony as a coach and the job he's done through his time here?
Well, I've been saying on ESPN, I think National Coach of the Year is between him and Chris Holtmann. And I would say that Tony's probably the favorite right now because Chris Holtmann has a guy named Keita Bates-Diop. It's going to be a top 15 draft pick, and Jay Shantae's pretty amazing as well. But I think the style and the system in which Tony has been able to implement it, it's like old school basketball. It's like you're seeing what basketball used to be back in the day when teams actually put effort on the defensive end. And almost the one and done culture that we live in now, we're always talking about the next great draft prospect. We rarely focus on the best team. And I'm going to say this, UVA is the best team in the country right now.
Last time you were here, you told us that you still enjoyed working and traveling with Seth. Is that still the case?
Starting to wear thin,
Yeah,
boys.
I'm
Starting to wear thin. Well, the funny
real
part,
story.
yeah, the real. It's coming out. The more I work with him, the more truth has to come out. He's incredible, but I also feel like I'm his associate head coach. We'll be getting off the plane like, Jay, what's the rundown today? What's the scouting report? I'm like, Seth, I'm not being paid to be your associate head coach. But I will say this: there is nobody between him, Bilas, and Reese. We all bust each other's chops. I feel like I'm part of a team, and when I do this show, we laugh because, my fiance's like, oh, you're going to work. I'm like, this is not work. I get a chance to learn basketball from great minds, if that's, Reese Davis, Seth Greenberg, Anna Negron, and then Jay Bilas in that order. I get a chance to, he's fourth on the list. I just get a chance to be surrounded by great basketball minds each and every day and to learn and have fun. And we treat each other like we're in the locker room, and Seth and I joke around. He's one of my best friends. It's really a chance of a lifetime to do this, and I'm really happy I'll get a chance to be back here tomorrow and witness you guys playing.
Cool.
All right.
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
You understand the ACC as well as anybody. How surprised are you, or how tough is it for a team to be 12-0 in this league the way it is?
It's brutal. I mean, it's hard to be 12-0 when you put one of those 12 at Duke. I mean, that says it in itself. You know, the league is, even though there are more teams, I mean, each and every game is an event, as we know, and when you get good, and as good as Virginia's got, you become what I call a red letter game for people. You become a big game on the schedule, and you know, the consistency. The Florida State one was absolutely phenomenal. You know, you talk about Virginia being down 11 points. You know, how are they going to deal with adversity? And I think that's the greatest testament to the leadership, the maturity, the ability to deal with adversity, the calm. I get a kick out because everyone sees Tony's calm demeanor, but they don't see his fierce competitive spirit, which his team has a calm demeanor but a fierce competitive spirit, which is, you know, a great combination. Because of their maturity, because of their shared experiences, they didn't panic. They continued. They didn't reinvent themselves. What they did is they continued to be who they were, and methodically, one possession at a time, one stop, one good offensive possession, you know, they get back in the game. And you know, probably that's, if you want to find a differentiator, that's the difference between maybe watching them and watching a Duke, is that they don't have those shared experiences. They can't look at each other and say, we've been here before, all right, how do we know how to deal with this. But yeah, being 12-0 is a heck of an accomplishment, and I love their team. I mean, I think the versatility of their team, you know, I didn't see it coming. I mean, Ty Jerome, I'm sure you guys have some nickname for him by now, right? Dead-Eye Ty, or Big Shot Ty,
I haven't used that yet.
whatever. I mean, you can come up with about a zillion names for him, but he surely needs a name, I mean, because he's not afraid of that moment. I mean, it's really interesting. And then I love Devin and Isaiah. I just think they bring kind of a toughness and a stable influence. And then DeAndre Hunter, I think, is a brutal matchup. I mean, his versatility gives Tony so many options, and you know, they're fun to watch. I mean, you can see them maturing, and you can see them, and they're not suffocated by where they're at right now. They're embracing where they're at, and they're working towards it. And that's why this game tomorrow will be interesting, because they did whack Tech on the road. Now, this will be a test of their maturity also, you know, because they, you know, subliminally, those players know what happened the last time they played. But I think they're mature enough to understand, like, there's a new 40 minutes. We got to get to the next play. Because you know, against Tech, they're going to, you know, get you out in the open court. They're going to be driving and throwing it, and shooting threes. You're going to overhelp, and they're going to get on a run. So, you know, I think that'll be interesting, and another test for their maturity. But I mean, it seems like because of those shared experiences, they deal with that pretty well.
And you won.
You were in this league when Tony took over here. What do you remember just?
I think 3 years with him, right?
Yeah, but where do you remember just where this program was when he took over, and just what he's kind of turned it into?
Well, I mean, like where it was. I mean, before David got let go, I mean, they won a part of a ACC championship. So I mean, and then they kind of fell off the cliff a little bit. You know, to me, what Tony's been able to do is he's been able to stay true to his core beliefs, and he's been able to stay true to his non-negotiables. He's been able to recruit players that fit his DNA and his vision for the program. And like even last year, and I'm sure you guys are starting to panic because you guys do. Oh, guys are transferring. So what's going to happen? London's graduating. What are we going to do?
We put it exactly.
Exactly.
You remember that, huh?
Yeah. Well, because I lived through when guys transferred from my team, and you guys, there's a reason they're transferring. Because they can't help us win. You know, so I mean, but his calm, steady leadership, his vision, his total commitment to doing it his way and getting guys to buy into each other, developing a trust, their ability to stay old. You know, he's just, it's phenomenal what he's been able to do, and he's done it his way. And I think, you know, having continuity of the staff, to the university's made a commitment to keeping, enabling him to keep his staff together, I think is really important, because that costs money, just like it costs money to keep a head coach. And I know he made some sacrifices himself in making sure his staff got paid, which is huge. That's a huge thing. I mean, if you don't have the commitment, your university's expectation, their investment's got to match their expectation, and they've done that with him. And then he's delivered in that he's got people to buy into how they play. And I've been pretty vocal, because maybe we played a little bit like that, is that I love the way they play, because you don't have to be a cookie cutter. Everyone doesn't have to play the exact same way. Run your break, back it out, run a play, back it out, run a ball screen. That's great. If we want to be the NBA, we're never going to be as good as the NBA. So the diversity of how people play is, to me, really good for our game. And like I get a kick about it. I don't like to watch them play. I like to win. I know that. So the Virginia fans like to watch them play. You want to be a team of other people that want to play against. Like to me, that's the whole goal. You have a good team when you're a team that other people don't want to play against, and that's who they are.
You experienced.
You kind of touched on it. Everybody sees that team thing, which is great, and it's what they are. But are their players get enough credit for being actually
They're really good. Well,
basketball?
here's the deal: they're putting guys in they're doing all that stuff, and they're putting guys in the NBA. I mean, whether it's Mike Scott, even though they didn't recruit him, or Joe Harris, or obviously London's got the look. I'm forgetting Justin Anderson, Malcolm Brogdon's phenomenal. So the players are good. DeAndre Hunter's going to play in the NBA. He's going to make a lot of money for a long time. So they've got good players, but we're going to have a conversation tomorrow on our show about why do we see this many unranked teams being ranked? Well, me personally, I think it's all the static that's around a team. Kid plays a game, you win a game, your team's on a roll, you walk out of the locker room, and whether it's social media or whether it's people having unrealistic expectations or disappointed that even though you won, you didn't get enough shots, it's hard to deal with that. Freedom of movement, use of three-point shot, that's an issue. And I'll tell you the last thing's an issue is, I call it the millennial world we live in. Like the average attention span for a millennial is about 8 seconds. And that's a study. I mean, I know from Fairleigh Dickinson grad, that's pretty big to know. But I mean, that's true. So I mean, yet he's been able to have some maturity and have those guys get past that, eliminate the static, play through the rule changes, stay cohesive and trust each other and enjoy the good of the group. That's really hard. And that speaks volumes for his staff recruiting the right kind of guys and getting guys to buy in to each other and being patient. DeAndre Hunter, red shirts. Devin Hall, red shirts. Did Isaiah red shirt? He didn't red shirt. Jack Salt, red shirts. That doesn't happen these days. But that's part of the magic they've been able to create. And that takes longer than the 8-second millennial attention span. Don't boo me on that one tomorrow.
On the flip side of things, you understand the NCAA bubble in Virginia Tech pretty well.
Thanks, appreciate it. It's been 6 years. I'm in recovery.
When you look at that team, their non-conference schedule versus how
I got killed on my non-conference schedule. I looked like I played the top 10 schedule in the country.
Believe me, there's days we would gladly take you back, even the media. So what do you see in terms of what they need to do to get a bid?
They got opportunities. I mean, the backside of their schedule is loaded with two games against Duke. They got this game tomorrow night. They're going to have opportunities. They can't afford a bad loss. And you're not going to make the tournament today or tomorrow. You just got to play the next game. And I do think that they've done a good job of kind of bouncing back, of worrying about their team. I think this time of the year, coaches, and I was probably to blame also, is you get so caught up in your next opponent as opposed to working on your team and get your team to be the best version of themselves. And then, if you guard on principle and you as a team get better, then winning and losing will take care of itself. And I think they're doing a pretty good job with that. They can really score. I mean, they can make shots, but it's like the thing. You live by the 3, die by the 3. I mean, so there's certain things out of your control. Will they get worn down when they get tired, or can they wear other people down because now people are fatigued? So now that ball reversal and that drive and kick is getting you a little bit more open 3. But you can't get caught up in it. You're going to live it. You're going to know what's happening. Every team has a guy on every team has a guy on their team that's like the bracketologist that in the next 2 weeks we'll know exactly where everyone is. But you can't hide from it. You just try to win as many games as you can and hope that the committee doesn't screw you. I think blunt.
It's not true.
It's pretty true.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean, how many people beat Duke and Carolina the same year and didn't make it? I know one.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Good.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
That wraps us up. Seth Greenberg giving us his perspective, and also you hear there towards the end. I thought it was a little fun there. Mike Barber from the Times-Dispatch has covered both Virginia and Virginia Tech basketball, football, everything else for a number of years. And you could tell those guys knew each other from when Seth was still in Blacksburg. And, a little bit of honesty there from Seth about the Hokies and their week non-conference schedule and how that may impact them on Selection Sunday. That's still a few weeks away, though. As he points out, the Hokies have every opportunity to play their way into the tournament field. They got this game tomorrow with Virginia. They've got 2 with Duke, the first one coming up next week in Durham. And so if you're a Hokie fan out there, yeah, you got your team has a lot of chances to play their way into the NCAA tournament field. Now, if you're a Virginia fan, you're listening to this because, well, you're a Virginia fan, and your team is 40 minutes of really good basketball away from being number 1 in the country for the first time since December 21st, 1982. Now, technically, I guess it would have been December 27th, 1982. It was the poll that came out the 21st that Virginia was last ranked number 1 in. And we've seen this team ranked, that season they were ranked number 2 a few different times. In 2015, there were several weeks when Kentucky was unbeaten and Virginia had that one loss, and the Cavs couldn't get over the hump because Kentucky wouldn't lose. They refused to lose until the Final Four. So Virginia has ascended all the way to number 2, and they've been number 2 this season. I think it's 4 or 5 weeks now. So we've seen the program get that close, but not, with Villanova losing Wednesday night, obviously, and Virginia's got a chance with a win to be the number 1 team in the country. I know we talked about this with Scott German earlier this week. In one sense, it doesn't mean that much. It's a ranking during the season. The only one that really matters is the one at the end of the season, but I still think it matters for the fan base, especially being able to walk around for at least a week, maybe a few weeks, say, hey, we're number 1. That's what you play for. And so that's on the line. College GameDay's in town. And there's an actual game, by the way, Virginia Tech. So for everything about tomorrow with GameDay and UVA, Virginia Tech, etc., follow Augusta Free Press. We'll have live coverage of the game. And, in fact, we'll be tweeting and Facebooking during the game day as well. So that's 11 to 12 live. Yeah, we'll get there a little early so we can get a seat. And then the game starts at 6:15. We'll have a live blog. We'll have post-game wrap with Scott German and I. Then we'll have, of course, our regular recap, written recap, game inside the numbers columns, and more after the game. So a lot of UVA basketball coming up here in Augusta Free Press. Looking forward to it. And for now, though, I'll sign off. For the fans of this podcast, I'm a UVA guy, so that's why we'll end this. Wahoo wah. Thanks for listening.